With the DLC's Pokédex leaking online, we now know most of the 230 Pokémon returning to the game. However, even with these Pokémon returning, there are still 15 Pokémon that aren't available at all on the Switch, and they won't be available until at least the very end of 2024. Before the DLC releases, there are certain Pokémon like Blitzel that are currently unable to be caught, but they will be able to in the DLC. There are some pretty surprising Pokemon later in this list, but we'll start with Blitzel. In the generation it was introduced, Blitzel could only be found on Route 3. Even when Black and White 2 rolled around, you couldn't catch Blitzel at all, locking it to that one route in Black and White. Its evolution, Zebstrika, could be found in Route 7 in Black and White and Route 3 and 7 in Black and White 2, as well as occasionally being found in Pokemon X and Y's Friend Safari. By early 2024 at the latest, you'll be able to catch Blitzel and Zebstrika in the Scarlet and Violet DLC. With its base 100 attack and paired with its 116 base speed, Zebstrika could be an interesting addition to Scarlet and Violet. With its ability Motor Drive, it gains an immunity to electric type attacks and gains a speed boost when targeted by one. Its hidden ability Sap Sipper is another good alternative, giving it an immunity to grass type attacks. Leavanny and its evolutionary line are also returning to Scarlet and Violet. Its base speed leaves a lot to be desired at 92, but can be doubled in sunlight with its ability Chlorophyll. It has a base attack of 103, barely beating out Zebstrika, and learns a lot of decent coverage moves like Steel Wing, Electro Web, Air Slash, Throat Chop, and Poison Jab, along with a great variety of support moves like Sunny Day, Swords Dance, Reflect, Light Screen, and Synthesis. The only thing holding Leavanny back is its typing. As a grass and bug type Pokemon, Leavanny has to deal with 4 weaknesses and 2 double weaknesses in fire and flying type attacks. It does, however, have a double resistance to ground type attacks, which is a very common offensive typing. Next up to return to Scarlet and Violet are Ducklet and Swanna, but there's not really much to say about this evolutionary line. Swanna's highest base stat is its speed at 98, and there's a lot of much faster Pokemon to choose from. If you really want to go for a water and flying type Pokemon, Gyarados might just be a better option overall. A Pokemon that I'm rather excited about returning is Pick-a-Peck and its evolutionary line. Toucannon's signature move Beak Blast will be an interesting addition to the game as a base 100 power attack with decreased priority that burns any target that makes contact with it while the attack charges. Although not as reliable as Will-O-Wisp, Toucannon will likely have great uses in, specific niche scenarios. Toucannon's stats aren't the best, but it does still have base 120 attack. Its speed only sits at 60, however, making it rather susceptible to attacks. The last unavailable Pokemon that is returning in the DLC is Sun and Moon's Minior. It's unfortunate that Minior has to get less than half its health to transform into its core form, but when it does, it gets 100 base attack, special attack, and 120 base speed. It also has access to Cosmic Power to boost its defense and special defense, as well as Shell Smash to boost its speed, attack, and special attack. It also has decent coverage with attacks like Psychic and Earthquake, and Sandstorm can boost its special defense even further. The next Pokemon we're going to discuss are the 15 Pokemon that are yet to return to the Switch that won't be in the DLC. Like I've said, the earliest we could see these Pokemon are in late 2024, so don't get too attached. The first Pokemon up is actually one of the weakest, being Patrat and its evolution Watchog. Its highest stat is its 85 base attack and doesn't really have much else going for it. As Generation 5's normal type rodent archetype, it's pretty common in Black and White and Black and White 2, but Watchog's last appearance was in X and Y on Route 15. I don't even want to talk about these next Pokemon, but I suppose I have to. They come in a trio: Pansage, Pansear, and Panpour, along with their evolutions Simisage, Simisear, and Simipour. They have weak typing, weak learn sets, weak stats, and honestly weak designs. I'm sure they served their purpose in Generation 5 as a Pokemon to help against the first gym, but outside of those games, I'm just not really sure. Next up is Furfrou, a Pokemon with a pretty strong design and gimmick. Its stats leave a bit to be desired, but with its ability Fur Coat, its base defense stat is effectively doubled from 60 to 120. It can also learn the move Cotton Guard, which sharply boosts its defense in battle. And now, the last 2 Pokemon on this list are actually quite surprising, because the last 2 Pokemon that won't be making their way to the Nintendo Switch for at least 2 more years are Snivy and Tepig, 2 starter Pokemon from Black and White. Oshawott just barely escaped this fate since it's a starter Pokemon in Legends Arceus. If you were unlucky enough to have chosen Snivy or Tepig during your first playthrough of Black and White, you wouldn't be able to bring them or any of their evolutions into a game past Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Personally, I think this is rather irresponsible of Nintendo and Game Freak, because starters are meant to be the player's partner Pokemon, and making them inaccessible in future games completely and entirely destroys that purpose. I want to talk a lot more about this topic, so let me know your thoughts in the comments and I might make a video discussing this in further detail, but other than that, consider subscribing and thank you for watching.